What do particle physics and Wall Street have in common? At first glance, it seems absurd to even ask. One world is full of particle accelerators and fundamental forces, the other, fast trades and billion-dollar deals. But in a modern economy where data is king and algorithms drive decisions, the lines between these two domains are fading fast. In fact, many of today's most elite trading firms, including Goldman Sachs, actively recruit physicists to develop cutting-edge predictive models. Behind the blinking tickers and flashing charts are quant's quantitative analysts who use complex mathematical tools to seek an edge in the unpredictable chaos of the markets. It's a strange fusion of science and speculation, logic and luck. As Emanuel Derman, one of the pioneers in this space, once wrote, "Models are only models, not the world itself." That distinction, and the humility it demands, is where his memoir My Life as a Quant truly shines. Derman's journey from academic physicist to financial theorist isn't just unusual, it's emblematic of a deeper truth, that the boundaries between disciplines are increasingly porous. After earning his PhD in particle physics, Derman found himself drawn to Wall Street not for the money, but for the intellectual challenge. His story mirrors a broader trend, one that's reshaping careers and industries. As Nobel laureate Richard Feynman once said, "What I cannot create, I do not understand." Derman brought that same ethos to finance, helping to build models that tried to replicate, and thus, understand, the behavior of the market. But his memoir isn't just a technical chronicle. It's a philosophical meditation on the limits of human understanding. Even with all the data in the world, our grasp of complex systems, be it the quantum realm or global finance, is never complete. So what does this mean for the rest of us, navigating a world that's more data-driven than ever? Imagine trying to forecast a thunderstorm with a kaleidoscope, beautiful patterns, but no clear direction. That's the paradox Derman faced, using mathematical elegance to wrestle with human uncertainty. His models weren't crystal balls, they were maps, and like any map, they left much of the territory uncharted. In this way, Derman's memoir becomes less about finance or physics, and more about epistemology, the study of knowledge itself. Can we ever truly model reality? Or are we forever trapped in abstractions, mistaking the menu for the meal? This makes My Life as a Quant more than just a finance book. It's a deep reflection on the limits of modeling in finance and science, and how those limits shape our decisions. And here's the uncomfortable question Derman's story dares us to ask: in an age ruled by algorithms and artificial intelligence, are we growing more confident in our tools, or more deluded by them? Models can guide us, but they can also deceive us. We often trust them not because they're right, but because they're precise. There's a big difference. As Derman writes, the danger lies not in the model, but in forgetting that it is a model. Just as physics cannot fully explain the mysteries of the universe, financial equations cannot fully account for human behavior. And yet, we cling to both, hoping to impose structure on chaos. It's an urge that's deeply human, and deeply flawed. So what can we learn from this physicist turned financier? That clarity often begins with admitting uncertainty. That models should be used as guides, not gospel. And that our most powerful tools, whether in science, finance, or life, are humility and curiosity. If you're navigating complex decisions, whether in business, tech, or your personal life, remember this: understanding the limits of knowledge is the first step to real wisdom. As you explore books like Derman's, ask yourself, what models am I living by? And are they helping me see the world, or just blinding me to it? Embrace the questions. Stay curious. And never forget that the most valuable edge isn't just data, it's discernment. About the author. Emanuel Derman is a former theoretical physicist who made a remarkable transition into the world of quantitative finance. Renowned for his groundbreaking contributions at Goldman Sachs, he co-developed the influential Black-Derman toy model, which became a cornerstone in interest rate modeling. Derman's work has been instrumental in transforming abstract financial theories into real-world applications used by Wall Street. Now a professor at Columbia University, he continues to delve into the rich interplay between science, finance, and philosophical thought, challenging conventional wisdom across disciplines. Key Takeaway 1. From particle physics to Wall Street, Emanuel Derman's unexpected journey to meaning. What happens when your dream turns out nothing like the movie in your mind? When Emanuel Derman landed in New York in 1966, he expected the dazzling skyline, the rhythm of jazz, and the intellectual vibrancy promised by Columbia University. What he got instead was a cold, gritty cityscape, a lonely room in International House, and an unfamiliar world where even the accents felt alien. Fresh from Cape Town, South Africa, and jet-lagged beyond reason, Derman stood at the edge of a new life. He had one mission: to get a head start on his PhD in physics. But what began as an academic pursuit would ultimately become a profound journey through disillusionment, reinvention, and the search for something deeper than formulas and fame. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts, Einstein once said, a quote that echoes through Derman's early struggles. At the time, particle physics was the rock star field of science, and like many aspiring young physicists, Derman was chasing the promise of unlocking the universe's deepest truths. But the halls of Columbia were intimidating. His advisor quickly made him aware of his shortcomings, while legends like Nobel laureate 𝗙𝗺𝗄𝗎 set a bar so high it was almost otherworldly. The more Derman immersed himself in theoretical rigor, the more he began to see cracks in his idealism. What if reductionism, the idea that all complex things can be broken into simpler parts, wasn't the full story? What if the world couldn't always be solved with equations? Picture trying to describe a thunderstorm using only the math of a water droplet. That's the trap of reductionism, and it's exactly what Derman began to question. While academia prized elegant abstractions, life kept offering him messy, human experiences that no formula could explain. 7 years into his doctorate, the once glorious image of a physicist's life had faded. He wasn't alone in this. Many brilliant minds have experienced the grind behind the glamour. Endlessly parsing equations without tangible impact had left him burnt out. It wasn't brilliance that kept him going, it was grit, timing, and perseverance. And even that didn't always yield clear rewards. Have you ever chased a dream so intensely, only to wonder what you were really chasing after all? Amidst this academic fog, something unexpected and deeply grounding entered his life: love. Derman met Eva, a fellow student who offered him more than conversation. She offered connection, something pure and anchoring in a world obsessed with the abstract. Their quiet but steady relationship became a lifeline. By the time he earned his doctorate in 1973, the allure of physics had dimmed, but something real had taken root. In the face of uncertainty, it was that human bond, not the Nobel dreams, that gave him clarity. As Derman would later discover, the most meaningful equations in life aren't mathematical, they're relational. So what does Emanuel Derman's story teach us today, in a world run by code, algorithms, and cold logic? That chasing clarity doesn't always lead to answers, but it can lead to wisdom. That ambition is powerful, but connection is essential. And that sometimes, our greatest transformations begin not when everything makes sense, but when it doesn't. Whether you're navigating your own career crossroads or questioning the path you're on, remember, you don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. As Derman's life reveals, it's in the tension between theory and reality that we discover who we really are. Keep exploring, stay grounded, and don't be afraid to revise the model. After all, the most meaningful lives aren't always the most predictable, they're the ones most deeply lived. Key takeaway 2. From isolation to insight, Emanuel Derman's academic journey and the search for meaning beyond physics. What if the dream job you spent years chasing turns out to be lonelier than you ever imagined? In the fall of 1973, Emanuel Derman packed his bags and left New York for the University of Pennsylvania, stepping into his first postdoctoral role with cautious optimism. He had expected a peaceful retreat into research, a life devoted to intellectual exploration. But what he found instead was an unsettling solitude. With his wife, Eva, still in New York finishing her PhD, and no clear roadmap ahead, Derman entered a world that was less about discovery and more about academic survival. The job market was tight, the pressure to publish was relentless, and the ideal of the life of the mind dissolved into sleepless nights filled with equations and existential uncertainty. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, Albert Einstein famously noted, and Derman would soon discover the truth of that. His opportunity came unexpectedly, through the study of dim events, peculiar results emerging from particle accelerator experiments. That research led to publishable findings, which soon captured the attention of the University of Oxford. What had begun as an uncertain chapter in Philadelphia became a remarkable pivot, from obscurity to an offer from one of the world's most prestigious institutions. In 1975, Derman crossed the Atlantic, stepping into the academic dream he had once idolized. But prestige didn't mean peace, it brought its own kind of isolation. Have you ever felt like you were in, but not quite of a place? That was Oxford for Derman. Though professionally invigorated, delving into charm quarks, refining code late into the night, and finally mastering the alchemy of turning effort into publications, he remained culturally adrift. With Eva delayed by 7 months and college life cliquish and insular, Derman once again found himself technically accepted but emotionally excluded. Yet amid the chill of Oxford winters and the grind of theoretical research, he found warmth in routine, and eventually in reunion, as Eva arrived and they settled into a shared rhythm with their eccentric office mate. But it was a different kind of discovery that truly shifted Derman's trajectory: philosophy. One day, he stumbled across the writings of Rudolf Steiner, a mystic philosopher whose curious blend of science and spirituality struck a deep chord. It was, in Derman's words, weird but nourishing, a stark contrast to the cold abstraction of data and proofs. Could it be that meaning lies not just in measurement, but in mystery? This question began to unravel the tight framework of reductionist thinking that had once defined his identity. His curiosity now spanned not only quarks, but the limits of knowledge itself. By the time Derman left Oxford, headed back to New York, a new postdoc at Rockefeller University ahead and a child on the way, he was no longer just a physicist. He was becoming something else: a thinker, a seeker, someone aware that science alone couldn't fully explain the richness of human experience. His story reminds us that intellectual growth often comes disguised as personal struggle, and that reinvention doesn't always begin with answers, it begins with deeper questions. So, if you're navigating uncertainty in your own career or questioning your place in a world of titles and expectations, take heart. Like Derman, you may find your clearest direction not when everything adds up, but when you start to explore what can't be calculated at all. Key takeaway 3. From academia to Wall Street, Emanuel Derman's leap from physics to finance. What happens when the pursuit of knowledge leaves you feeling empty instead of enlightened? For a time, Emanuel Derman thought he'd found his intellectual paradise. At Rockefeller University, he was free from lectures, deadlines, and academic politics. His days were filled with deep research and tender moments with his young son, morning walks that felt almost sacred. With a wood-paneled office and the serenity of a campus cocoon, it seemed he'd found the perfect balance between personal joy and professional purpose. But as Derman would soon learn, even paradise has its cracks. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts, Winston Churchill once said, a quote that mirrors the quiet unraveling of Derman's dream. Beneath the polished veneer of Rockefeller, subtle signals emerged. His mentor, the respected physicist 𝗙𝗵𝘆𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, grew distant. Job postings began showing up in his mailbox, silent nudges that his time there was nearing its end. When he later accepted a postdoc in Boulder, Colorado, the mountain views couldn't mask the emotional chasm. Separated from his wife and son, and mourning his mother's death, Derman began to feel the grinding cost of academic survival. The prestige remained, but the passion was gone. Have you ever worked so hard for something, only to realize it no longer fills you? That pivotal realization forced Derman to confront what many in academia quietly struggle with, the cycle of delayed gratification with no guarantee of fulfillment. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was honest. He returned to New York and took a position at Bell Labs, a fabled institution known for scientific breakthroughs. Yet, instead of a research utopia, he found himself navigating office politics, time cards, and soul-numbing commutes. Still, something unexpected happened. Derman discovered programming. In crafting algorithms and designing systems like HEECS, he tapped into a joy that pure theory had never quite delivered. It was logic made tangible, beauty that could build something real. Despite the creative spark, his time at Bell Labs often felt like a slow-motion exile. The fluorescent lights dimmed his once bright ambition, and evening rants became routine. It wasn't until watching My Dinner with Andre, a film steeped in existential dialogue, that Derman's spirit stirred again. The film reignited his longing for purpose, and not long after, Wall Street came calling. He was skeptical, unsure whether finance could offer more than a paycheck. But one offer stood out: Goldman Sachs needed quants, scientists who could turn complexity into profit. It was a world away from particle physics, yet oddly aligned. In 1985, Derman made the leap, closing the book on academia and opening a new chapter in the fast-paced, high-stakes realm of finance. Emanuel Derman's story is more than a career pivot, it's a powerful example of career reinvention in science and finance. It reminds us that walking away isn't failure, it's evolution. That sometimes, the bravest choice is not to persist in what you've outgrown, but to bet on what's next. So if you're stuck in a system that no longer serves your spirit, ask yourself, what are you staying for, and what could you be moving toward? Like Derman, your second act might just be your defining one. Key takeaway 4. How Emanuel Derman built Wall Street's most powerful financial model, the BDT legacy. Imagine stepping into one of the world's most powerful financial firms and being told to rebuild the very tools it uses to make billions. That was the reality for Emanuel Derman when he joined Goldman Sachs in the mid-1980s. Back then, the firm was still compact, just 5,000 employees, but it pulsed with relentless ambition. Under the guidance of mentor 𝗷𝗲𝗂𝗧, Derman was plunged into the volatile world of bond options. The models in place? Outdated. The expectations? Sky high. Could a physicist turned financier create something the markets could trust and use? All models are wrong, but some are useful, statistician George Box once said, a quote that would become eerily relevant to what came next. Derman built 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, a refined, user-friendly interface grounded in a smarter take on the Black-Scholes-Merton model. Traders loved it. Even Fisher-Black himself, co-author of the original model, gave Derman's creation his blessing. This was no small feat, it was the financial equivalent of getting a standing ovation from Einstein. That meeting would spark something deeper, a collaboration with Black and colleague 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗏 that would yield one of the most enduring frameworks in quantitative finance. Their vision? To create a model that reflected how interest rates truly behaved in the real world, not just mathematically elegant, but practically robust. Drawing from physics, they applied the concept of lattice models, envisioning interest rates moving in discrete, predictable steps. From that vision, the Black-Derman-Toy (BDT) model was born. It allowed analysts to extract a full range of future one-year interest rates using just current bond prices and yield curve data, a breakthrough in fixed income modeling. While not a perfect replica of reality, it worked as if markets only cared about short-term rates. It was this as if realism, clean, focused, and adaptable, that made the model revolutionary. But even success comes with shadows. By 1988, the cracks began to show. After cycling through 4 bosses in 2 years and watching instability eat away at the culture, Derman began to question his future. He found a new opportunity, Salomon Brothers. They offered double the salary, a fierce pace, and a reputation so intense one insider compared it to a shark, keep swimming or die. It was a risk, but Derman took it. Why stay loyal to comfort when evolution demands discomfort? Emanuel Derman's transition from physicist to financial modeler is a powerful reminder of what it means to adapt and lead. In a field as volatile as quantitative finance, his journey shows that clarity, creativity, and courage can shape entire markets. So here's the question: what tool, idea, or vision could you bring to life if you stopped playing it safe? Derman didn't just survive Wall Street, he transformed it. And maybe, so can you. Key takeaway 5. From burnout to breakthrough, how Emanuel Derman rebuilt Wall Street models at Goldman Sachs. What happens when brilliance meets a broken system? For Emanuel Derman, joining Salomon Brothers was supposed to be the next big leap in his quantitative finance career. Instead, it became a gauntlet of chaos. Assigned to lead a team focused on adjustable-rate mortgages, instruments as messy as human behavior itself, Derman quickly realized this wasn't about formulas anymore. This was the Wild West of finance, where numbers bowed to market mood swings, and predictability was more myth than method. As author William Gibson once said, "The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed." Salomon Brothers embodied this unevenness. The firm was ruthlessly competitive, riddled with turf wars and territorial coders who guarded their knowledge like state secrets. Collaboration was scarce, and under the thumb of an overbearing boss, Derman found that innovation had no room to breathe. Gone was the intellectually open culture of Goldman Sachs, in its place was a corporate version of Lord of the Flies. And yet, through the grit and grind, Derman uncovered something crucial: financial models aren't just analytic tools, they're persuasive narratives that shape markets and mindsets. Eventually, a brutal downturn and company-wide layoffs gave him a bittersweet out. But life has a way of rewarding those who persevere. Back at Goldman Sachs, Derman got an unexpected call-up, co-leading the quantitative strategies group, thanks to Fisher-Black's sudden departure. The new role reignited his sense of purpose. He wasn't just crunching numbers, he was decoding complex derivatives tied to Japan's Nikkei index and its volatile currency. Sound intimidating? It was. But this time, Derman had a secret weapon: clarity of thought born from years of professional adversity. To tackle the challenge, he used an analogy as vivid as it was effective. He likened the pricing model to a fruit salad. Each component, stocks, currency, volatility, needed to be weighed, balanced, and framed correctly. With the right simplifications and mathematical framing, the exotic became accessible. The end product was Samurai, a robust risk management system that captured the intricacies of cross-asset pricing. But more than the model itself, it was Derman's ability to turn complexity into clarity that became his signature strength. So what's the bigger takeaway here? Resilience breeds reinvention. Derman's roller coaster through toxic workplaces, intellectual doubt, and professional instability led him to redefine what it means to create value in the high-stakes world of Wall Street financial modeling. If you're in the middle of your own career storm, ask yourself, what lessons are waiting in the mess? As Derman's journey shows, sometimes the toughest chapters lead to the most brilliant breakthroughs. Key takeaway 6. Why financial models fail, Emanuel Derman's journey from Wall Street to wisdom. What if everything you built, every elegant model, every well-reasoned formula, turned out to be only partially true? In the early 90s, fresh off the success of Samurai, Emanuel Derman found himself riding a wave of influence. His risk management tool for exotic derivatives had captivated Goldman Sachs traders and put his quantitative strategies, QS, team at the heart of Wall Street's most complex financial innovations. But just as the quant world was celebrating progress, Derman stumbled upon a problem no model had solved: the volatility smile. It was a pattern traders noticed in the pricing of options, a curve that smiled back at you, showing that real-world volatility didn't behave the way the Black-Scholes model assumed. Derman first spotted it in 1990, quietly observing the Tokyo trading floor, and it rattled him. If the market didn't match the model, how many risk strategies were skating on thin ice? This mystery became his new obsession. Teaming up with 𝗏𝗂𝗄𝗎, Derman built the implied tree model, a dynamic approach that bent to fit market data like a flexible rubber structure. Their breakthrough? A reverse engineering method that inferred local volatility using only 3 option prices. It was a triumph of mathematical clarity and market realism. But Wall Street didn't cheer. Why? Because traders were creatures of habit. The elegant but complex implied tree couldn't compete with the simplicity of Black-Scholes. The tools were better, but the minds weren't ready. As the decade wore on, Goldman Sachs grew into a corporate giant, especially after its 1999 IPO. The tight-knit culture Derman once thrived in began to dissolve into bureaucracy. Even as he pioneered more sophisticated ways to understand risk as a spectrum of possible futures, he could feel the soul of the work slipping away. Risk management had become less about insight and more about compliance. Then came 9/11. For Derman, and many others, the tragedy was a brutal wake-up call. Life demanded more than models and markets. Within months, he walked away from Goldman Sachs after 17 years. The quant who had helped redefine Wall Street decided to return to academia, not to chase prestige, but to search for meaning. By 2003, Derman was back at Columbia University, not as a physicist, but as a professor of financial engineering. And with this final pivot came a profound realization: financial models aren't truths, they're fictions, useful only as long as we remember they're not reality. They are like metaphors, approximations designed to guide thinking, not guarantees of safety. Finance is not physics, he would later write. It's not about discovering laws, it's about making sense of human uncertainty. Derman's journey reminds us, true wisdom isn't just about mastering complexity, it's about knowing its limits. Models may help you survive the markets, but humility helps you understand them. In summary, Emanuel Derman's My Life as a Quant is more than a memoir, it's a deeply human story of searching for meaning at the intersection of science and finance. From apartheid-era South Africa to Wall Street's most elite trading floors, Derman chronicles a journey marked by intellectual rigor, emotional resilience, and the painful awareness that not all truths come with tidy equations. His path from physicist to pioneering Wall Street quant challenges the assumption that mathematical mastery alone can make sense of a messy world. Derman begins with dreams of academia, imagining a serene life of discovery. But reality sets in quickly: lonely postdocs, a competitive job market, and a growing disillusionment with the insular nature of physics research. His move to Oxford brings prestige, but also a subtle reminder that belonging isn't guaranteed when you're a South African Jew navigating British academia. Still, his curiosity burns bright, and the writings of mystic scientist Rudolf Steiner awaken a yearning for deeper, more integrated knowledge. That yearning carries him back to the US, where he experiences the joys of fatherhood and intellectual freedom at Rockefeller University. But even this oasis proves temporary. A move to Bell Labs introduces him to the thrill of programming, yet bureaucracy and monotony wear him down. When a chance opportunity arises at Goldman Sachs, Derman takes the leap, embarking on a new chapter where physics meets finance, and formulas become fortunes. At Goldman, Derman thrives. His creation of Bosco, a user-friendly bond pricing tool, catches the attention of none other than Fisher Black, co-creator of the Black-Scholes model. Together with Black and colleague Bill Toy, Derman helps build the 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗏 (BDT) model, an innovative approach to pricing bond options using lattice-based techniques. But even amid these accomplishments, Derman begins to see the limits of models. They're useful approximations, not universal truths. After a rocky detour at Salomon Brothers, Derman returns to Goldman stronger and wiser. He co-leads the Quantitative Strategies Group, developing Samurai, a risk system that simplifies complex Japanese options. His ability to turn mathematical complexity into intuitive tools becomes his signature gift. Yet with success comes unease. The models work, but they can't capture everything. The smile-shaped curve in volatility pricing haunts him. It's a signal that the real world refuses to fit neatly into anyone's equations. Driven to solve the volatility smile, Derman and 𝗏𝗏𝗳𝗏𝗏 craft the implied tree model, an elegant yet underappreciated innovation. But the market is reluctant to let go of the simpler Black-Scholes formula. Derman begins to see more clearly. Models don't reveal absolute truths, they provide perspectives, and those perspectives must be wielded with humility. As Goldman goes public and its culture shifts, the thrill of exploration fades. Then, after the trauma of 9/11, Derman decides to step away from finance. Returning to Columbia University in 2003, Derman brings with him not just knowledge, but wisdom. He teaches not just math, but the philosophy of modeling, reminding students that finance is not physics. In the market, human behavior complicates every calculation. To be a great quant, one must be not only precise, but empathetic, creative, and honest about uncertainty. It's this insight, the blending of art and science, that defines the final act of his journey. Ultimately, my life as a quant is a celebration of intellectual evolution and personal integrity. It invites us to embrace uncertainty not as failure, but as a signal that we are exploring real life in all its glorious messiness. Derman's story is a powerful reminder that truth-seeking doesn't end at mastery, it begins with humility. If this story moved you, if it sparked a thought or stirred your spirit, help us spread its message. Like this audio, share it with someone on their own journey, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire, educate, and empower. And if no one told you lately, remember this: you are loved, you are worthy, and you are spectacularly capable of extraordinary things.